done this before. Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
You have the professional mic and everything. You are
I,
far
I,
beyond us.
I'm in my podcast studio. I had two podcasts this morning that I had to do, so I'm
That's
still up
awesome.
here. I haven't
Well,
left.
thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I know I've been watching your Instagram and you're just doing so much great stuff every day. But what
Thank
we like to do is
you.
just start off by telling us what is your MS story about when you got your diagnosis and sort of how you got where you are today.
Well, the story, basically, I heard you talking about living with phantoms. So for over 30 years of my life, I was experiencing every single symptom you can imagine, living with multiple sclerosis. And I kept going to the doctors, and the doctors were always saying to me, "You're fine, you're healthy, you're a corporate woman, you're stressed out, you need a vacation." And I was like, well, why can't I feel my hand? Why am I losing my eyesight? And then progression got worse, and I would be tripping like I was drunk. And as we all know, that's like the famous phrase, "I'm not drunk, I have MS," but I didn't know I had MS then. And then after being a corporate woman and working super hard and being on the road traveling constantly, I just started to believe them. And I thought, it's all in my head. I'm living with a phantom. And at one point, I remember going to the Catholic Church and saying, "I think I'm being haunted because I keep feeling all these things, but I can't see them. And the doctors keep telling me I'm perfectly healthy. And I don't know what to do." And he's like, "Well, you're not being haunted. I promise you that. But you probably should get some new doctors." So with that being said, unfortunately, doctors after doctors after doctors, still no diagnosis other than me thinking I was insane. We got married. You know, my husband and I had been married for 30 years, and he could see it happening to me, and I would lose my speech, or I would all of a sudden be dropping. There was one joke that we had forever of, "If you really don't like those dishes, I'll buy you some new ones," because I would hold it and like drop them. And years went on. I had children. The symptoms got worse. Life got worse. And I was living in a constant pain and trying to be a mom now and trying to live my life. And just being what I thought, quote unquote, I was supposed to be, the perfect housewife, Joan Cleaver. That's how old I am, like back in black and white TV. And I was like, okay, well, doctors tell me I'm fine, so I guess I'm fine. And they would give me Prozac and Xanax and tell me to calm down and you'll get through this and life is easy. Well, life is not easy, and it wasn't until 2012 where I had to have a double mastectomy, and I went in to have the surgery, and I didn't recover well, and I tore my stitches trying to make a bed, and got a really bad staph infection. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't see, and both eyes were like completely blinded. I started having what they call the lock jaw, when your jaw locks and it feels like someone's choking you.
Mm.
And the symptoms were getting worse and worse. And 2 days after being on the medication for staph infection, after having the surgery, it was really intense. My entire body, it was like a bomb went off. And I believe it was the infection and the stress of the surgery and the emotional toll that it took on me, having to have your entire upper body ripped apart and put back together. And the doctors were like, "There's something wrong with her. Let's do a brain scan. Let's do, a CT scan. Let's check for cancer." And for 7 months, I went from one doctor to the next, to the next, to the next. And we live in California, so I've got really good doctors from LA to San Diego, and you name it. It wasn't like I was still in Ohio when the doctors weren't really around. And it wasn't until it got to the point of me finally fed up with the doctors that I took matters into my own hands. I started looking up the symptoms. I started trying to find the answers. I started looking for a female doctor, thinking a female would listen to me. I was referred to Dr. Chowan, and she's been my neurologist ever since. She asked me my history. I explained everything to her. She spent 2 hours with Robert and I, took all the medical reports that I had collected over the years, had another brain MRI and a spinal tap, and that was the only difference, the spinal tap. And I finally got my diagnosis. I didn't know what it was. I researched it. In 2 years, it took me to learn how to live with a disease that I could not see, and how to get my children to understand, and how to get Robert to understand, and then how to rebuild my life. And since then, I have been nothing but advocacy on a positive side of the disease versus the negative, because I lived in a negative world for so long with being haunted with phantoms. So I decided to write my life story. So another woman who may read my book, or someone else that can read the book and a girlfriend are talking, having coffee, they would have a reference of what they went through. And I didn't leave anything out. It talks about thoughts of suicide. It talks about 5 miscarriages. It talks about the torment that you feel like you're being literally haunted when you can't see something. But in reality, you could have a broken arm, and unless you have a cast on your arm, you don't know you have a broken arm. You could be living with a major heart disease and diabetes, but nobody knows you have heart disease or diabetes. But because those are all so well known, people pay attention. And multiple sclerosis, even though we have foundations in the world, nobody, unless you know it and have it, nobody understands the disease. What is MS is usually my answer. Like what people ask me, well, what is MS? You look totally healthy. What's wrong with you? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think your story, it sounds so familiar. We've talked to so many people who, like you, went years of their life without ever knowing what was wrong and feeling crazy and having doctors not figure it out. And I think that's why, I mean, I think that's one reason it's so important that so many people are sharing their stories, because there's a lot of people out there right now that are going through that are having those symptoms and feeling crazy. And so I love that there's so much. It's real life, right? It happens. So I'm so glad that there are more people sharing these days, because I hope that it leads to more people getting the right diagnosis so that they can get on the medication that they need and get the treatment that they need. Now, what has worked for you in terms of treatments, medicines? What have you tried that you found helpful?
You know, unfortunately, I have always been in that 1 percentile that with every warning that comes with that label, I have at least 99 of them, no matter what it is. So I was put on Copaxone. That didn't work well. Then I was put on a lot of other medications, and I really don't like saying the medications because they do work for other people. They just did not work for me. And it finally came to a point that there was one medication that they put me on, and this was in 2018, and I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't able to get into a deep sleep. I was in chronic pain constantly. I do take Cymbalta. So Cymbalta was originally designed for cancer patients and heart patients. Cymbalta is it helps you with your serotonin levels. It keeps your pain levels under control. It's basically like right here, that part of our brain tells us we're in pain. And I started taking Cymbalta, and that would help me get through my day. And it also raised my serotonin. And as you know, living with multiple sclerosis, serotonin is the fuel for MS. That's why we're so exhausted. Why we're not always joyful or always like able to keep going. And Cymbalta makes the serotonin for me, or actually it tricks the brain to say I'm producing serotonin. So I started to learn okay, I can't take any of these drugs. They're really affecting me. And then I was put on another drug, and it took 6 months of being on this drug, and I started to go into a deep depression, and I tried to take my life.
Mm.
And as an advocate, I would love to post that drug all over the place and say, don't ever take it. But I know that that drug is successful with so many other patients living with MS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank God I am only now on Cymbalta. I take my nighttime tremor medication to help me deal with the tremors at the end of the day from running like a steamroller all day long. And I surround myself with color and beauty and the constant positivity reinforcement every single day to keep my serotonin levels high. Do I live in pain? Yes. My pain level is between a 5 to a 6 every day. But I've now learned to just manage it and understand it. And the difference between the pain of us being multiple sclerosis and the pain from working out. There's a complete difference in the two. And you feel it as you're living life. And the more that you understand and listen to your body, the better off you're going to be. So I'm not anti-drug because I am on 2 of them, but I am not pro-drug either. I'm kind of in the middle of both worlds.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's, as someone who's new to learning about these things, that's basically what I've seen is that it just depends on who you are. It depends on your symptoms and everybody. And sometimes a drug will, work for a while and then you have to switch. And so, for those that are watching, I would just encourage you to make sure you're always talking with your doctors and checking to see if there's something else, something you can change. And obviously, like you had that really bad experience with this one drug, make sure that you're carefully monitoring those things. I think that's so, so important. Now, looking at your website, you do have such a positive message, and it's really about whole body health, which is important for everyone, but I think especially important for people that have MS or other chronic conditions. So can you talk a little bit about that side of things and what you do, coach people in for that whole body wellness?
The whole body wellness is everything that I had to learn because I was not able to take the drugs. So I had to learn how to eat properly. And it really is, it does come down to what you fuel your body with. Some people can eat whatever they want with MS and they don't have an issue, but I have known the studies that are done today, it is all about the way you eat and exercise and move forward with your life and nourish your soul as well as your body and your stomach. So our stomach used to be thought of the second brain. It isn't. It's the first brain. Whatever you put into your mouth that goes to your stomach fuels your brain for the day and your body. So with all of that going around, people think that they can just eat drive-through when they have MS and ice cream and dairy and wheat and all of these things. And unfortunately, those foods, although they are absolutely delicious, they are inflammatory. And anyone, not just MS patients, diabetes, heart, cancer, fibromyalgia, lupus, the list goes on forever. They are all autoimmune diseases and they are all inflammatory reactive. When you fuel your body with inflammatory foods, you are not going to do well and you will end up in that wheelchair like I was. So I was the junk food junkie. I was the mom that had the chips and the M&Ms and you name it. And I ate whatever the kids ate. They were little, the drive-through and fast mom. And we got to get to soccer and we got to do this. Well, after being diagnosed and then learning the actual symptoms and what was going on, the first book that I purchased was Dr. Terry Wall's and her protocol. And within 6 months of eating that way, I was slowly getting better and stronger.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I realized, okay, I need to do something to help others understand this because no matter where I went in research, that part of when I was diagnosed in 2012, there wasn't a lot of studies on the food. It was all about the drug. It wasn't the food. So I decided I'm going to open my nonprofit, Sea Warriors and Dawn Marie Healthy and Fit, LLC. And my website was going to be positive and moving forward and bringing the people into my website for free, that you can go straight to the link and go straight to them, of everything that I know is holistic and that has worked for me. So I have MS Hope on there because, you know, Matthew Embry and his father and mother, they are also a nonprofit organization, but they have PDFs that you can go in and download and how to eat and move forward and work out. And then I also brought in Previnex, which I now just started taking in December. And a dear friend, another warrior, Angie Gaines, gave to me as a Christmas gift and said, Dawn Marie, not only do you have MS, you have colitis now, and I want you on this. And it was the best gift ever. And I saw a massive improvement in 21 days of how my body reacted to this product of plant-based food that I drink twice a day. I have it for breakfast, I have it for lunch, and then I eat a very huge meal at dinner. And I train at night. And I lost almost 20 pounds now since December of pure inflammation in my body. Like I can actually touch my fingers now where I could not even get my hand around.
Wow. I use Previnex for my smoothies, so.
I love Previnex. I mean, it is amazing. And you know that it gives you energy, and you know that you're fueling your body with protein. Protein's important. Like whether you take Previnex or not, eating more protein in your day and less carbs and no sugars and no dairy will fuel your body and your brain, and you'll suffer less attacks and less flares.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's amazing, you know, what you were saying, like how they were just so much more focused on the meds outside of the nutrition. And it's like, I feel like nutrition, no matter what you're dealing with, should probably be the number one focus. I mean, if you're getting it off the ground. So I think you're so right to focus on that.
Yeah, and then I even brought in my doctor, Dr. Amber, who is incredible. She works with me on my peptides. Peptides work with your natural DNA. And because of my colitis and looking like I was 9 months pregnant, if I ate a leaf or I had a piece of toast, no matter what I put in my body with the colitis, I would literally swell to 9 months of pregnancy in extreme pain. And almost died this last November and ended up in the ER because my blood pressure was 213 over 118, something like that. And I had to leave. They wouldn't even let my children or my husband go with me to the ER.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
That's when I finally got diagnosed with colitis. So MS is a massive sum of everything that happens to us, but there are other diseases that happen when you have MS. And there is a connection that was just posted through the National Society of Multiple Sclerosis that MS patients and females all